Hello, welcome to this bonus video on the structure of the hippocampus. I promised you that I'm going to talk I want to talk about an animation by Alisa Brandt. Alisa Brandt is a fantastic medical illustrator, and she made an animation with the title of Morphology of Memory, the Anatomy of the Human Hippocampus. She showed the anatomy of the hippocampus and its associated area structures such as Subiculum and Entorhinal cortex. It's scientifically accurate and medically accurate. That's why I love this animation. There are a lot of animations, which they try to show a 3D structure of the human hippocampus, but this animation is very medically accurate and scientifically accurate. So I just want to introduce this animation to you, professors, and if you have a class on human hippocampus, you can use it in your classes, because actually I always had this question that, okay, how the cortex actually bulges into the temporal horn of the lateral ventricle. How what's the connection between CA1 and CA2 area and those coronal Mossy areas, and how the dentate gyrus is associated with coronal Mossy of the hippocampus. And this animation with its 3D structures helped me a lot in understanding the general anatomy and the general structure of the hippocampus. So I thought that maybe you can use that in your classes. Okay, I don't know if you have a class on the structure of the hippocampus, but I think your students are going to enjoy this and learn a lot from this animation. So now let's get to that. I have I have some screenshots of the animation. It starts with telling us about the where the hippocampus is located. Well, I told you in the very first lecture, in the lecture series of on explicit memory, I told you that the hippocampus is actually located in the middle portion of the anterior temporal lobe. So this is the temporal lobe. I also told you that the hippocampus is actually in the temporal horn of the lateral ventricle, and this is a beautiful picture of the ventricles of the brain, those cavities which are filled by cerebrospinal fluid. These two are lateral ventricles, and this is the third ventricle. We have four ventricle here. So this is the lateral ventricle, and well, this is the hippocampus. The head of the hippocampus with those grooves that I told you, these are called pes hippocampi. The body and the tail of the hippocampus, and also this fimbria, and then we have the subiculum, a part of the cortex associated with hippocampus. We have also the entorhinal cortex. Okay. And then we can remove the alveus, or the outer layer of the hippocampus, and see coronal Mossy, the CA1 area, CA2, CA3, and CA4. And you can see this dentate gyrus. And I told you that dentate gyrus has a tooth-like edge, and this is a very beautiful drawing and picture of that. And these are just CA areas, coronal Mossy, and so we have, I always had the idea, we usually have a coronal section. We usually see a coronal section of CA areas. We don't have this kind of 3D structure of the whole structure, 3D picture of the whole structure. This is a 3D picture of all of those areas. We have CA1 here, CA2, CA3, and CA4, and you can see that the cortex is somehow bulges into the temporal horn or the lateral ventricle. So, but in order to understand the synaptic connectivity and other aspects of the hippocampal structure, coronal section can help us. So we have a coronal section. You can see the coronal plane here, cutting the hippocampus in this this way. And here the coronal section. Again, you can see a part of the entorhinal cortex, the subiculum, and then it gives rise to CA1 area, CA2, CA3, and CA4, and this is the dentate gyrus. Okay, you can see a part of that dentate gyrus here, the tooth-like structure or edge. It's very beautiful. And well, another thing she did, and she showed in her animation, Alisa Brandt, was that she showed, the synapse in the Mossy fiber pathway between the dentate gyrus Mossy fiber. This is the Mossy fiber of the dentate gyrus, and the dendrites of CA3 pyramidal neurons. And you can see this is the synaptic bouton. Okay, swelling, the presynaptic swelling. These are called synaptic boutons or varicosity, and these are dendritic spines of CA3 pyramidal neurons. Okay, and this is one of those synapses in the Mossy fiber between the granule cells of dentate gyrus and pyramidal cells of CA3. So she also, in her animation, she also talks about the connectivity and the synaptic circuit of the hippocampus. You can see in this picture that it shows us the main input to the entorhinal cortex from different areas of the neocortex, and the cortex, it's different areas of the cortex. I showed you that entorhinal cortex is the main source of projections to the hippocampus. And so entorhinal cortex is of course part of the cortex, so it is layered, but the input actually goes to other areas of the hippocampus. The input starts at layer 3 and layer 2. So let's see what happens. So this is still entorhinal cortex after entorhinal cortex receives input from other areas of the neocortex or the cortex itself. It sends some inputs to the subiculum, and then from layer 3, it sends some inputs directly to CA1 through the direct perforant pathway. And we have, it sends some signals to the subiculum and to the dentate gyrus through the layer, from layer 2 through the trisynaptic pathway. So the initial leg of the trisynaptic pathway starts at the layer 2 of the entorhinal cortex, sending some information to the dentate gyrus. And sometimes subiculum sends some information directly to CA3. And then from the dentate gyrus, we have Mossy fibers, dentate gyrus, granule cells of the dentate gyrus. They make synaptic contacts with CA4 area and CA3. And then CA3, we have some recurrent collaterals, recurrent connections, or recurrent connections or feedback connections within the pyramidal cells of layer 3. We don't have a lot of those recurrent connections between pyramidal cells or within the pyramidal cells in CA1 area. And then CA3 area connects to CA1 area through the Schaffer collaterals, the axon collaterals of CA3 pyramidal cells. And then all of them, they send their outputs, the subiculum, the CA1 area, CA3, CA4, all of them send their outputs via the fimbria to the fornix. Sometimes the CA1 sends its outputs to subiculum and back to layer 5 or 4 of the entorhinal cortex. It's actually layer 6. So layer 6 of the entorhinal, different layers of the entorhinal cortex. So this is it. This is and it shows the flow of information, okay, and the synaptic connectivity. Okay, it starts from the subiculum, it goes to the dentate gyrus, and it goes to the CA1, and they're all connected, and they send their outputs through the alveus to the fimbria of the hippocampus or fornix, and back it goes to the fornix then. This is the hippocampal cortex. The cortex of the hippocampus has layers. We have the superficial layer called the alveus. We have a stratum oriens. Okay, we have a stratum pyramidal, and the reason it is called stratum pyramidal is because, or pyramidal, is because we have the cell bodies or somos of those pyramidal cells. Okay, and then we have a stratum radiatum and the stratum lacunosum moleculae. I'm really sorry if I'm pronouncing them not correctly. You know, I tried a lot to find a valid source for their pronunciations. I couldn't find, so I watched some lectures by some neuroscientists talking about the different layers of the hippocampus, but I still have some issues with pronouncing them, so I'm really sorry. And you know, I would be very happy if you could, you know, correct me if I'm wrong. You know. Anyway, so stratum lacunosum moleculae. This is the deepest layer of the hippocampal cortex, and then we have, you know, the dentate gyrus. Actually, the dentate gyrus is separated from the hippocampus by this hippocampal sulcus. The dentate gyrus itself is actually layered, and it has a stratum moleculae. It has a stratum granulosum. You know, unlike stratum pyramidal, you know, in stratum pyramidal or pyramidal, we have the soma of those pyramidal cells. In a stratum granulosum, we have the soma of those granule cells. And we have a polymorphic layer. We have the axons of those granule cells of the dentate gyrus. So, yeah, this is the hippocampal cortex. You know, Alisa Brandt also provided a 3D interactive model of the hippocampus. And so you can see that you can choose, in this 3D model, you can choose different views of this hippocampal formation. You can turn on and off the brain. You can see the location of the hippocampus in the lateral ventricle. And you can, you know, rotate that and see different views of that. There are some labels. Okay, all of those structures related to the hippocampal formation are all labeled, and you can turn labels on and off. You can turn different layers on and off and make them disappear or appear again. For example, I just turned off the alveus, the superficial layer. You can see the different layers, and then the subiculum and entorhinal cortex, you know, you can turn them off as well. All of the layers, all of these structures, and then you can just see the corona emmanis and the dentate gyrus here, and removing CA1 here, CA2, CA3, and CA4 then, and you can see the dentate gyrus and that dentate edge, and then you can turn all of them on again. Okay, so well, that was a very quick review of that interactive 3D model. As you can see, it's a very nice educational tool for even undergraduate students and high school students. I don't know if you have undergraduate students or classes or not. Even I think it's good for maybe graduate students, because most of you teach, I think, graduate students. But, you know, I just wanted to introduce that, very beautiful animation, this wonderful interactive 3D model of the hippocampal formation. I don't know, maybe you can use them, you can use the video and the animation in your classes, or you can introduce them to your students. I'm sure they're going to be helpful, and they're going to love it. They're going to love it. And so thank you so much for watching this video. This was a bonus video in the lecture series on explicit memory. So again, if you teach a class and you have to teach, you know, the hippocampal formation and its structure, you can, you know, introduce your students to introduce these, you know, the video, this animation, and this interactive 3D model. I put a link to both of them and in the description. And so your students are going to enjoy, I'm sure they're going to enjoy and learn a lot from the video and this interactive 3D model, as I did. So thank you so much for watching this video, and goodbye.